you have NC State, BYU, and Oregon. Are you leaning, I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago, are you leaning any particular direction at the moment? Because Hello, and welcome to the Stride Report podcast. I am Ben Weissel, and joining me, as always, Garrett Zalin. How's it going, man?
Ben, it's the final countdown, man. The final countdown. We're here. It's this. The season ends on Saturday. This feels like it's been. I mean, it just goes so fast every season, especially cross country.
Yeah.
You know, we're like, oh, we're finally kind of getting into the groove of it, and then, bam, it ends. It ends.
Well, because at this point in the modern cross country, it's like it's like a 6-week season. It's like you people start really racing around Nuttycombe, and then it is. I mean, so it's really less than 6 weeks. It's like a 4 or 5 weeks schedule in a lot of ways, and then you go right into those big Nuttycombe meets. You go right into conference championships, then you go into regionals, and then it's nationals, and it's like, all right, we finally started to get a sense of what you guys were doing, and now it's all over. Where's track? Track feels like it just goes and goes and goes sometimes because you're seeing these amazing performances week in and week out. It's really cool to be here. We have a lot to talk about with regionals. We're going to preview nationals, but we talked a little bit last week about, hey, it seems like it's going to be pretty chalk from a regional side. We'll try to find some scenarios here where things will go off the rails. And you know what? Things went off the rails. Not even the ones that we necessarily predicted, which made it a very, very interesting weekend.
It did. Also, what made it interesting was that we got +2 reviews on Spotify. Many, many thanks to everyone who has done that. I sincerely appreciate that. If we could keep those numbers going up, that would be awesome. We are at 125 on Apple, 219 on Spotify. So 5 stars, rating and reviews. Please, please, please. I know you don't think it helps. It does. Go subscribe on YouTube as well. Ben, let's chat about regionals. We're gonna split this up into a 2-parter. We'll do the first part regionals, and then we'll do the second part into our national meet preview. So let's start with the regional championships. Everything has been announced. Our projections were correct. Shout out to our friends at collegexc.com. Shout out to Bo Wagner, who I was lightly communicating with as well at coloscalc. Or is it coloscalc? Yeah, coloscalc.com. Shout out to him. Let's start with the men's side. What was the biggest surprise to you about how the Colos and national qualifying system played out this year?
I think it had to be twofold, right? It was what transpired to have the very limited amount of men's teams qualify from the West and from the Midwest, right? The fact that Stanford did not qualify and Boise State didn't qualify, not really because of any fault of their own, but because of the weird Colos scenario where they really needed Stanford to finish 5th and they didn't. And then teams like Loyola, where it was man, you guys had such a good season. You guys were positioned fairly well to get one of those qualifying spots. And because things just got a little wonky, it really had a big impact on a lot of these other major teams that we've been talking about all season.
Yeah, and so for those not familiar, so in the West region, it was Oregon 1st, California Baptist 2nd, Washington State 3rd. But what really got interesting was when Boise State got 4th place, because if Boise State got 4th place, that means they probably had beaten Stanford, and that means that Stanford was going to push them into the national meet, right? That was really the only scenario in which Boise State could get in. But if they got 4th place, there was a very good chance that they were going to get pushed in by Stanford. The problem, however, is that Portland beat Stanford and got 4th place. And because Portland didn't have enough points of their own, they couldn't push in Boise State, and no one could basically get in. Stanford couldn't get in until the other 2 teams in front of them, Boise State and Portland, also got in. Portland effectively screwed this up for Boise State and for Stanford. That's the team that Boise State should be furious about. Stanford has really no one to blame but themselves. But Portland's the one that messes this up dramatically. Portland is the one that, even with that, I think Air Force is probably pretty happy about this. Louisville's pretty happy about this.
Yeah.
All these different teams that have to go run the scenarios again, but it's pretty substantial. Ben, what does this say about Stanford, a team that struggled all season long? It's the first time since 1993 that they have not qualified for the national meet. First time. What does this say about what this team has had to endure this season? Like, how do you process that information?
I think the worst thing that you can say about the Stanford team is this doesn't come as a huge surprise.
Ooh, good take.
And that's the disappointing thing is we said coming into this there's a chance they don't make it. We still think they should because they have a ton of loss points. They just need to not screw up royally, and they'll be there. They screwed up royally, but again, it's not a huge surprise considering the way this team has run. And we can talk about we'll talk about the Stanford on the women's side a little bit later, but you look at this entire program, the amount of resources, the amount of talent that they attract. They've had some good track performances that have been good. They've won some individual national titles there. Great. This team has underperformed in cross country for too long now. There might need to be a change, and I'm not necessarily calling for someone to lose their job, but like at this point, there needs to be higher expectations for a Stanford cross country team. And the fact that we are seeing this prestigious program just kind of crumble in a lot of ways, despite having great recruiting class after great recruiting class. There needs to be, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. You're just bashing your head against the wall and expecting a different result. I really need to see some major improvements, I think, throughout the rest of this academic calendar to cement that it looks like, hey, they've really taken a step forward and we can depend on them in the fall for me to really change my mind about what Stanford's going to look like moving forward.
And I agree. I agree. It's just not acceptable. Like, you're Stanford. You should be better. Now, in their defense, no Lex Young this season, right? Paul Bergeron didn't race after Gans Creek Classic. We never saw Patrick Kuhn, who has run 13:43 for 5,000 meters. There's guys like Zane Bergen. We never saw him as well. I already said Paul Bergeron, but like,
and part of like coaching is keeping your guys healthy, and having them ready for the most important meets. Gaines Creek doesn't matter as much as the regional and national championships. Again, and sometimes there's nothing you can do, right? But this has been when you use that excuse for 1 year, fine. When you use it for 5, it doesn't fly anymore.
Yeah, and I think to clarify what you're saying is like, hey, it's not like, this has been the excuse for Stanford not qualifying for the last few years.
Right.
They have qualified and they've in fact been top teams, but they've also struggled, right? They weren't even top 10 at the national meet last year, right? Despite being a clear top 10 team throughout last season, right? There was the year where they were supposed to be contending for the national title, and I think they barely made the podium. So it's things of that nature where it's like the bar should be so much higher and it should be at least met once. And no matter what it is, it's just not there. So tough year for Stanford. Tough year for Stanford. Leo Young has been fantastic. Leo Young has been phenomenal, actually. So rooting for him at the national meet. Want to transition to the men's side. Northeast region, Iona takes the second automatic qualifying spot over Harvard. Harvard still gets in. We said that during in the regional recap or whatever the headlines is that it was surprising that Iona got the second automatic, and of course, as any proud distance program would be, the guys were not happy there and they chirped back. But the fact remains, Iona was not supposed to get that second automatic qualifying spot. You can be historically great all you want. You were 10 spots behind Harvard at the Nutty Comb invite and you beat them. So yeah, it's a surprise. You weren't supposed to get the second auto. You weren't supposed to get any auto. And it saves their season because if they got third place or worse, they're not going to the national meet. They don't have the Colas points. And that's what's pretty huge about this. And so thoughts on Iona?
Yeah, and they took a qualifying spot from teams that would have expected an extra qualifying spot. And yeah, I mean, great run for them. Harvard hasn't looked great, like the last couple of weeks, and so it's hard to say like this is all like. Of course, kudos to Iona stepping up 95 points, but like Harvard scored 105. Like they like if they just do their job, like
Yeah.
this isn't like even close of a decision. I think. But Iona they put down a good enough marker, and Harvard just didn't live up to what they've shown throughout the rest of the season. So I don't have like huge expectations for Iona now going into the national meet. It's not like they've scored 50 points and we're like 15 points back of Syracuse, and hey, they look like a true top 15, top 20 team. But hey, they stepped up when the lights were brightest for them, and that deserves a ton of kudos.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but it's just like it's just a fantastic performance because they did this last year too, where I
Yep.
don't know if they were necessarily like on as much on the fringe as they were now, but like this is a team that come the regional meet, they really begin to uptick and you really begin to see now. I struggle to see how this team like I'll be interested to see how they do at the national meet. I think they're just at a disadvantage in terms of just talent and proven ability. I think Nuttycombe kind of showed that, but coming through and like beating a Harvard team that like yes, a Harvard team that's not perfect, but they're still Harvard's very top heavy. Harvard's
Mhm.
like a good team, so I'm interested from that perspective. There, anything further on the men's side? Ole Miss beating Georgia for the second auto. Louisville getting in. These are all some surprises here. Air Force gets in after being on the fringes. Excuse me. Any other thoughts and takeaways?
Yeah, I mean the South region was really interesting, right? You
Mm-hmm.
mentioned Georgia being beaten by Ole Miss for that second auto qualifying spot, but Lipscomb nearly qualifying. They lose the tiebreaker to Tennessee for that fourth place spot, and if they had been able to go 1 point ahead, they end up dancing at the national meet. And who would have been? Was it Louisville or Air Force who would have
I
gotten?
think it's Oklahoma.
Oh, Oklahoma injuries.
I
Wow,
think
wow,
I think it's Oklahoma. Let me run it real quick. Yeah,
that's very
Oklahoma is the one
interesting.
that opts out, and instead Lipscomb is the one that gets in.
Wow, that's incredible. Again, we talk about this, and we probably could have looked into the meet results where it's like, hey, if this one finish that was zero point 0.1 second difference, if these two guys would have swapped spaces, that's the difference
It
in
usually
you going
is.
to national meet or Oklahoma being like, what the heck just happened? How did we not make it? So I mean, this is why you gotta love the regional meet where it's the margins are so small, and hey, it ended up with Oklahoma making it, which I think they've richly deserved. But Lipscomb, I mean, as close as you can get.
As close as you can get. Let's move to the women's side. Women's side, where it was a bit more chalk. It was a little bit more predictable in some cases.
Mhm.
Um, let's as I have to decline a call here real quick. There we go. Let's talk about Northeast. Providence. Boston College gets the first auto. Providence women get the second auto. Syracuse women falter. Ben, after Loyola, where Loyola Lakefront Invite, where the Providence
Mhm.
women 10th place, you think that the Providence women were going to get into the national meet, or what percent chance did you give them to get into the national meet?
I mean, 1%, 2%, I had written it off completely. I mean, and I probably shouldn't have been that harsh on them because the Northeast region is the Northeast region on the women's side
Yep.
this year, where it is not good. But yeah, they were not on my radar. I was not looking for them in results anymore, and that's like for you to bounce like Iona, we were at least looking at the results for. Like we
Right.
were like, all right, like we got to check in, right? Providence, I was not. Like we talked
Yeah.
about the Big East, and we were like, yeah, it's Georgetown and Villanova. Don't worry about everybody else. Like, and so it is. I mean, what an accomplishment for Providence after losing all the great like runners, some of the greatest runners in their like last 10-15 years of their program's history walked out the door. They somehow find a way of finishing second at the Northeast Regional and qualifying for the national meet.
They ran really well too. I mean,
Mhm.
they had three in the top 10, five in the top 25. Like it's just it began to all click at the right time of the season. I think they are massive benefits of a really weak region. a
Mhm.
really, really weak region. I think the Northeast is probably the worst region in the NCAA this year for the women's side. I'd have to go back and check, but I'm pretty confident in that. Um, and yet it and what are they supposed to do? Apologize for getting
Yeah.
place? Like they ran really, really well. And that's great coaching. It's great peaking and it's taking advantage of the opportunity. Syracuse faltered hard. This is again another thing that happens with them in the postseason where it comes regionals, it comes ACCs, it comes whatever, and they just don't always seem to put it together some days more than others. So yeah, interesting results in the Northeast there. Any further comments on Providence?
No, I mean, so obviously they didn't take any spot, right? They got an automatic qualifying, so it really just affected the points that they were giving out, which I think was very helpful to like a Villanova, right? Who did beat them at Big East, and they were able to avoid any of those scenarios where they did not make the national meet. I want to go down south again
Mm-hmm.
on the women's side, where we saw Florida easily take home the win in the South Regional. Tennessee, though, finishes second, and Alabama third, not looking good at all. Top, they go what? They go 1, 2, 3, and they still need a tiebreaker to beat Mississippi State for that third spot. What I mean, they still would
Yeah.
have made the national meet if they would have finished fourth. Mississippi
Yep.
State would have gotten like the most insane backdoor into the national meet we would have ever
That
talked
would have been
about.
insane.
But like what are we to make of this Alabama team? Like this is very
I,
strange.
I think it's important to realize that Alabama did not have Lily Walters. Yeah, I don't think they had her, and so she does cut down on some points. And if she is in there and she does race, then I actually think Alabama beats Tennessee. So that's why I'm not ultra concerned about this result. But it does show that there is no depth. There is no depth on this team. You can be as good as you want through three. It doesn't really matter. Tennessee ran really well though. They had all seven of their runners in the top 40. More that's not something Florida can say. They had all five of their scorers within the top 26. I mean, this is a really impressive run from Tennessee. They had a low stick, decent middle lineup support, and great depth. And this is the version of Tennessee that I think we saw a little bit at Gans Creek, and then
Yep.
they never really kind of showed it again until now. This is a complete team. Alabama, you can be 1, 2, 3 all you want, but if it doesn't help you, right? If you're still tying with Mississippi State, which with respect to Alabama, they should not be tying with Mississippi State, even if
Nope.
you don't have Lily Walters.
Yeah.
Anyways. So great run by Tennessee. Alabama has left me very concerned. It would have been insane if Mississippi State qualified. No, not once have they ever been on my radar this
No.
season. I would have, if someone said what percent chance does Mississippi State make the national meet, I would have said 0%. And
Because
they
they
were that
finished.
close.
I was looking. I wanted to look up where did they finish at SECs. They were
Ninth.
ninth, a distant ninth too.
Yeah.
They lost to Tennessee by 50 points. That is, what a great run for them though. They scored less points at the South Regional than they did at the SEC championships by 100 point by nearly 100 points.
Well, the SEC is more
Deeper, right?
competitor. Yeah, is more
Yeah,
competitive
yeah.
than the South Regional.
But that is remarkable for them to step up in that way and almost be a point away from pulling off what it would have been one of the best upsets we've seen in a long, long time.
That would have been huge. It would have been huge, huge, huge. Anything further? Looks like Wake Forest gets in. Boise State in the West region go down there. So
Yep.
West region, two storylines here. Amy Bunnings returns for Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that in the national meet preview. Amy Bunnings returns for Stanford. Stanford gets first. Oregon gets second. Boise State women, they had to defeat either Washington State or Washington. They do. They get third Washington State fourth. Washington State pushes them in. Washington gets fifth. They all get in. Boise State. What are we supposed to like? How good is Boise State? Like, are they a top 25 team? Are they a top 20 team?
So, I mean, really, I think the big upset here is that they beat Washington State, right? Yeah, Washington has been so up and down. It's hard to be like, all right, this is like super stunning. Washington State, though, like again, they're gonna look so much better in a bigger field, right? Where they do have some good, really, really strong low stakes. So I mean, I think this Boise State team is a top 25 team. They certainly deserve to be at the national meet. This is
Yep.
not like a Mississippi State or situation where, or Providence, even a Providence situation where it's like you haven't been like one of the best teams all year, and yet you're still going to national meet. They definitely deserve to be. I would have them like in the 25 range, closer to that than the 20 range. But hey, if they keep going on this trajectory, they could make me look very silly.
Gonzaga does not make it tough
Yeah.
look for them. At
Yeah.
the beginning of the season, if I had said Boise State or Gonzaga, I would have said Gonzaga is more likely to get
Yep.
into the national meet. So,
Absolutely.
okay. I think that's that on the Cole loss on the regional results. Anything further before we move to our national meet?
No, I don't think so. Everywhere else on the women's side, as you said, was very, very chalk.
Chalk it is. All right. So we're going to transition out of this and we'll now move to our NCAA championship preview.
So we're gonna go and talk about the NCAA championships, and we're gonna do this the way that we always do it, right? We have our talking about the team title. We're gonna talk about the individual title. We're gonna talk about some of our favorites. We're gonna talk about some wild cards, a sleeper team that hey maybe can inch up and get into the top 10 unexpectedly, or hey maybe someone that can make the podium that we aren't expecting. And then on the individual side, again, favorites to take home the win. Maybe a wild card in terms of, hey, we have no idea what they're going to do. They could finish 20th. They could finish 120th. And then sleepers as well for, hey, someone's squeaking out an All-American spot that maybe does not come in favored to do so. So let's begin. Let's start on the team side. On the men's side. How many would you consider how many teams would you consider have the favorite status?
I would say there are three teams.
Three teams still. Okay.
I think it's Oklahoma State, I think it's Iowa State, and I think it is New Mexico. I think those are the three teams that should be viewed as the sure anything can happen, but those are the three teams that one of those three teams should win the national title.
And let's talk through this because I put down some loose predictions already, but I'm not feeling good about it. So let's talk through like, all right, what should make us feel good about each of these teams, right? Oklahoma State, obviously, I think it's the Big 12 championships. What they showed, you've got to feel really good about that. On the flip side, though, do you trust some of their top scorers from that meet at the national meet? The Guadias, the Shoppies, like how good do you really feel about them at the national meet? Like, is Oklahoma State in your mind the team with a target on their back going into this?
I think they are, but only just because of Big 12s. And I think our feelings on these three teams are very similar because like I haven't made my picks yet, but Oklahoma State is like you said, there's the Gawadias, there's the Shoppies, there's the Kip Kem boys that leave you like a little on edge about like what exactly should we expect. Iowa State loses to Oklahoma State at Big 12 championships. And of course, they have a little bit of that controversy happening with the team suspensions earlier this year. What happens with that? They didn't look super strong at Big 12s. And then New Mexico, which is, hey, it takes one off day, one guy having even just the slightest hiccup, and they're not going to win the title. And that's the problem. It's like all these teams, I think from a natural talent standpoint, are actually maybe the best collection of national title favorites that we've had in quite some time. But for as talented, for the natural talent as much as they have of that, the downside is that they all have like pretty like they all give you like good reason to be uneasy about their national title chances.
Yeah. And for that, I think this is one of the hardest predictions that we've had for a long time. I mean, a lot of times it'll be either or, right? NAU or BYU, right? Like that's been the discussion a lot of years. This time, it does feel like it's a true 3-horse race where any of these teams could realistically win. New Mexico's a tough one, right? We just haven't seen them against top competition all of that often this year, really through no fault of their own. I mean, they're going up against a weaker competition in their conference meet, and then regionals. It's hard to index much on
I
regionals,
mean, they
right?
did win Nuttycombe.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. They had that one. That's the one that we're using. We have one data point, right?
Right.
For
And they
feeling
didn't
how they
face a
compare.
stacked Iowa State team. They didn't face Oklahoma State. Right. They didn't face Virginia.
Exactly. And so that's I think they're the team that honestly comes in with the most unknowns, right? I think Iowa State, if they hit their peak, it's it would be very difficult for any team to beat them. If they look like they did earlier in the year, I don't know if anybody's touching them. Even Oklahoma State with what they did at the Big 12, like I don't know if they can replicate that to the same extent that Iowa State can replicate their like Gaines Creek performance, considering it's a 10K and the 10K should benefit the Iowa State guys. But New Mexico, I mean, they have I think the best runner out of this group. Although Brian Massow would probably could
Sure.
rightfully take issue to that.
Sure.
And Habtom Samuel, and they just are loaded with guys that can stack up really well with the best of Oklahoma State and Iowa State. I think you just have the similar question marks with them as you do with Oklahoma State, in terms of, hey, what is their 4-5 score? Can they show up like they have throughout the year? But you also have question marks with their top guys, where some of them don't have the same like experience that Oklahoma State has had, at least running in these national championships. So I right now I have New Mexico in my third spot, but I would not be stunned at all to see like they really surprise us one way or the other, because I just don't feel like I have a lot of data points for them this year or even in years past.
No, and I'm with you. I think that's a fair point. Like I, I hesitate. I think people are going to say like Oklahoma State's the favorite, but like, man, like I'm leaning Iowa State, and like because like if New Mexico hits on all cylinders, then they should win. It's just I'm struggling. I'm really I don't think there's a bad choice, a bad decision. I just excuse me. I'm struggling.
Over or under 91 points.
I go under for sure.
Under.
In
Okay.
this year with this field with this talent, I think because I think you're going to have to score under 91 to beat one of the two of those three teams.
And I totally agree with that, because what I was using that to lead into is you have to run like this is a championship that you're going to have to go out and win. It's not going to be handed to you. You
Ooh,
have
good
to
take.
run an A+ effort to win this championship, and one of these three teams is going to do it. And if you're going to have to be the one to do it to get this national championship. This isn't going to be a year where, hey, you can back into a 110-point victory by just putting together a competent effort, right? You're going to have to go out and grab this title. And this is going to be the same thing on the women's side, which is sets this up really interesting on both these title races. But I think we're going to see some very low point totals on the men's side for a couple teams, which we haven't seen like single or double digit point totals for more than one team in a long time on the men's side.
All right. All right. Do we want to continue to dive more into the men's side, or do we want to move to the women's team title race?
Why don't we switch over to the women's side? And I think it's the same thing that can be said, right? Three teams that have a very good shot at this national title that deserve the favorite tier kind of status. You have NC State, BYU, and Oregon. Are you leaning? I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Are you leaning any particular direction at the moment? Because this one I felt like I was throwing darts. I didn't feel good about. Like I felt a little bit better just because of New Mexico. I felt like there's a little bit more unknowns. I was like, all right, I can kind of remove them from my like winning it predictions on the men's side. But on the women's, I feel so it feels so insulting to put whatever team I did in third place.
Yeah, I am leaning, and I will say I am leaning NC State. That's where I'm currently leaning. Now, I should notify everyone as we're recording this. We have some of us have made our predictions. A handful of writers have. I have not. Some have not. Ben's only part of the way through his. Um,
And mine are TBD. What I have on the paper, I
right.
reserve the right to
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I said you have until Wednesday. So, NC State is probably the team I'm leaning more towards because of the balance, because of the like because of the balance. Like I know that I'm going to get a great low stick result out of Hartman. I know I'm going to get a great low stick result out of Napoleon. I think I'm going to probably get a top 20 result out of Gapes. And if you get those three, the rest of this cast is good enough to win the national title, right? That's kind of where I'm leaning towards, where it's like I feel really good about the firepower. It's probably good enough to at least match a lot of the firepower that we're going to see from BYU and even partially from Oregon, right? But it's the Fleur Templiers of the world. It's the Sadie Engleharts. It's the Bethany Machalik, right? Machalik could be a top 20, 25 name, right? It's just all Brooke Robber has been having a really nice season. She deserves a lot of credit. There are great options on this team. And it's more so like I worry about Oregon's depth by comparison and the shakiness of which we could see from there. It's BYU's like third runner and fourth runner. Like,
Yeah.
is that third or fourth runner going to be as impactful as what we see from NC State? And I don't think it is. So I'm gonna say NC State. I really I think they're the most complete team. Again, I reserve the right to change this should something happen, but I'll take NC State right now.
Yeah, I understand that, and I think the thing that I keep coming back to is Napoleon's emergence as like not a good like all-American runner, but a true low stick that has
Yep.
changed this team and their perspective. Where it's like you thought like it was gonna be Hannah Gapes that was gonna be like right behind in the number 2 spot. And the fact that she's now relegated to the third spot, I think, is such a good sign of what the potency of this lineup. I I can't get rid of this feeling that Oregon though just might have enough like just to have overwhelming firepower, right? What they have shown with Cherabit, Cheritich, and if Aildes can put together a top 15 performance, like they are going to be so dynamic through 3 that I wonder if that just gives them enough of an edge over an NC State. But I the fourth and fifth runner, to your point, you don't necessarily feel as confident in as you do about NC State or maybe even BYU. They have a lot of options, which I think you feel good about. Hey, your sixth or seventh runner could end up being your fourth or fifth runner, and they could end up being an All American. And but I this is just so fascinating because we've hardly mentioned BYU, and they've looked terrific throughout the year. Jane Hedengren has been as good as advertised. She's going to probably be the number 1 scorer out of all these three teams, right? She's going to give them a lead through 1, right? But to your point, can Riley Chamberlain step up and be a top 10 finisher? And then after her, who's going to be that third scorer that can go head to head against the Aildes, the Gapes of the worlds, right? There's so much more uncertainty there, and that just leaves me like right now pushing them to third, which again feels extraordinarily disrespectful.
I mean, that's just the year. That's just the year we're
Yeah.
in, man. That's just how it goes. Yeah, I think BYU. It's not that. I actually think they have the most extensive depth. And you
Yes.
could even argue that their depth is the best, like debatably. But um, it also like just to a certain extent doesn't matter, just because like because you're effectively saying, well, like, hey, listen, can Oregon's fourth or fifth runner do one of them falter, and then do NC State's fourth or fifth runner or sixth runner falter? And even if one of those scenarios happens, it's still likely that the other scenario is, hey, the other team is fine and they actually run a complete race, right? And like, there's only so much BYU can do to counter that in the scoring. So I'm with you. I think BYU is probably my third place team, which I guess effectively makes Oregon my second. But like again, I could get off this podcast and be like, I completely lied to my entire audience. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the ceiling I think for BYU is not as high, right? It
Mm.
just feels like they don't have the ability to score 65 points if they needed to, right? And hey, maybe Jenna Hutchins comes back and looks great and like changes all that, but we haven't seen her all year, so it's you can't really bank on that. Whereas you could see an Oregon, you could see an NC State team scoring 70, 75 points if they run their full like an A+ effort.
Let's move to wild cards. Wild cards teams. You know what? No, I take that back. Let's move to. You know what? I'm gonna reset this. Let's go back to the men's side instead of wild cards and sleepers, and we'll get to them in a second. Who are the teams outside of the three that we've already mentioned, Oklahoma
Mhm.
State, Iowa State, New Mexico, that can realistically land on the podium? Which additional teams?
So in my mind, it's three.
Yep,
It's Virginia, Colorado, and Syracuse. I think
agreed.
those are the. I think you could make an argument. I wouldn't agree with you, but I think you can make an argument for Oregon. We
Yep.
have no idea what we're gonna get out of Oregon. They're gonna be sneak peek. They'll be one of my wild cards. But I think in terms of if you're the betting markets, Virginia has to be the clear favorite. Colorado and Syracuse, though, I think are like plus odds, but not crazy plus
Yeah.
odds
Plus
to finish
180,
fourth.
plus
Yeah, yeah,
200.
yeah.
Yeah. So I agree. I don't want to be duplicative in my analysis and redundant, but I agree. Yeah, fully agree. Everything that you just said. Okay, let's move to the women's side then. We'll just fast forward to that. I'm going to give my thoughts here on who I think these teams can be. And I think that's going to be, in addition to Oregon, NC State, and BYU, I think it's Florida. I think it's Iowa State. I think it's Notre Dame. And I think depending on who they run, how they run, like I say this tentatively, uh, Northern Arizona. Those are my four.
Yeah, I have kind of I was really high on Northern Arizona coming into this, but I don't I would leave them off my list, but I agree otherwise. Um, I mean, how big of a favorite do you feel like Florida is to get that fourth spot?
I think they're a pretty substantial favorite, more
Okay.
so than
Yeah.
Virginia.
Yeah,
I think they're
I
just
agree.
they've got a complete four. Their fifth runner, Claire Stegall, is coming through in a major way right now. She's running
Mhm.
really, really well and at the perfect time. I question like how big of a I don't think that big it'll be that big of a gap. Like I think there's gonna be they have a chance to get four All Americans and the gap won't be that bad to their fourth fifth runner, excuse me. So I think actually Florida is gonna be a like I would think or Florida is actually like a minus money
Yeah,
bet
I agree.
to make the podium.
Absolutely. Yeah, it feels like this was shaping up to be a really interesting race for that fourth spot. But as the season has gone on, and Florida just consistently, like, I mean, their regional performance was a great encapsulation of what we've seen of them throughout the entire year, where they are just rock solid through four and their fifth's good enough. Like they pack up super well together and they load up the top 10 in almost every race they're in. Now they're not going to be all in the top 10 at the national meet, but it wouldn't surprise any of us to see them all in the top 30, right? So yeah, I totally agree on that. So let's switch back over to the men's side. Wild cards. I hinted at one of mine being Oregon because man, we just have not seen them against this level of competition. The best we saw them against was Big Tens, where they were just destroying teams that probably no team that's probably going to finish in the top 10. Maybe Michigan State ends up sneaking in there, but no other team in the Big Ten has looked that great this year. You could tell me that they finish sixth or fifth, and you could tell me that they finished 15th, and I wouldn't be that surprised. They are one of the biggest unknowns coming into this national championship.
I agree. I think they're ridiculously talented. I thought West Regional was actually pretty encouraging in terms of seeing
Yep.
certain key names like Simeon Beerbaum, like Aiden Smith. There's guys like that where I wanted to see more out of, and I saw encouraging steps forward. I agree with you. I think Oregon could, in a perfect, everything goes perfect scenario, they get that fourth podium spot. But there's just questions that we still have because their best competition that they faced in a serious like non-regional meet is Michigan State, I think.
Yeah.
And so
And
it's
even
it's like,
even regionals, like the best team that they beat was California Baptist, who is a good team. But if we're talking about like a like not like an absolute top 8 team in the country, they're not that. Like they just have not faced any of like the top 6 to 7 teams in the country this year.
no, I agree. And that's why I'm also a little like unsure about them. Um are you considering them your sleeper or your wild card? Remind me.
Wild card. I
Wild
have
card.
just because I have no idea. And I think a sleeper category would be fine, but like yeah, I think just from a like I don't really know what they're gonna do. I think they could be all over the place. They earn that wild card moniker for me.
Hmm. Man, I'm going to go. Man, I like Oregon as a wild card. I think it's a
Yeah,
great answer. I will go Washington State as a wild card.
it's a good one.
The firepower is immense. Evans Karui, Solomon Kipchoge. It's so good. Joseph Melly has been better. The entire depth, Kuto Stevens has been, significantly and noticeably better, right? But it's like, man, sometimes those international names that we've seen in larger fields, like, Solomon Kipchoge was a DNF at last year's national meet.
Hmm.
Karui was a DNF at this year's Gans Creek Classic, right? This team is already having, initially earlier in the season had trouble with the back end of their lineup and the scoring and the lack of stability there, right? When you mix all of these components together, it can get a little ugly. And they can't afford any off days. Now, if
Right.
everyone runs well, you could tell me they're getting 7th place, 6th place, and I'd be like, yeah, for sure. You could also tell me that they're getting like 21st place, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
yeah, that checks out. So, yeah, I think Washington State would be mine.
They're the team that could put in like the Alabama women at the South Regional kind of performance, right? Where it's
You
just
could.
like you have studs through like a couple runners, and then it's just like, all right, what the heck just happened here on the back end? So yeah, totally agree on that. On the women's side, do you have a team? So I don't try to steal your thunder here.
In terms of a wild card, a wild card, a wild card, I'm gonna go. This might be a pretty big wild card, but I'm gonna go Oklahoma State.
Yep.
I like Oklahoma State. I think if like right now they just won their regional, right? Which take that for what you will, take that as a
Yep.
grain of salt, right? Um, but if the quartet of Iska Chalenga, Maureen Ruto, Bila Chipkiri, and Victoria Lagat, if all four of those women run well on the same day, which is certainly not a guarantee, and it hasn't happened yet this season in the few instances that they've had a competitive meet, but if those four women all run well on the same day, this is the top 10 team in the country at the national meet. It is. Now, do we see that? I don't know. And what happens if just three of those women run well? Then how well do the fourth and fifth runners have to fare in order for Oklahoma State to be a top 10 team? It's still possible, less likely, but it's still possible. So I will take Oklahoma State. I think that the depth is also a challenge for them. It drops off pretty harsh, and they could fall back. But I do like Oklahoma State as a wild card.
I agree. And like a wild card within that team has been Jep Curry, right? A 7th place performance at regionals. You have to feel like that's a pretty promising result. And again, we usually don't try to take too much out of regional performances, but for her to bounce back and put together a top 10 performance at the regional meet, where again it was like we talked about it coming into this,
Yep.
Oklahoma State needed a good performance at regional. They did not
Yeah.
have any points. Like, and they stepped up. They ran. They were probably a lot more motivated than a lot of other top teams in this region. But so really good result from her. And I think as she goes, I think Oklahoma State's going to go. So I agree with you. As a wild card for me, the return of Amy Bunnage.
Yep.
Where does Stanford land? I've been
Yep.
personally underwhelmed. I had very high expectations coming into this year. We just haven't seen a lot out of Riley Stewart. Mina Scatchard's been okay, but really they were missing their top runner, right? And Bunnage comes back, and again, she has as much talent as almost anybody in the NCAA. where does can Stanford put it all together at the right time and be a top 7, be a top 8 team in the
Yep.
country, which I think is still very much within the realm of possibilities? Or are they like the team that they've been all year and you add in Bunnage that helps, but maybe they're like a 11th place team in the country? I think they're a fascinating team to watch as you're adding in a very significant variable late in the season.
Let's move to sleepers. So, for those wondering, well, what's the difference between a wild card and a sleeper? A wild card is a team that has a what we believe a wide range of possibilities, right? So, like it could finish between 6 and 21st, like I said with Washington State, right? There's a wide range. There's a lot of different variables that can happen. Sleeper is we think they are ranked here, but they should be ranked higher, or they are posed or poised to be ranked, or
Yep.
poised to be finished higher at the national meet. Just a team that's simply under the radar, at least in either our eyes or in the eyes of the entire NCAA. So that's how we're differentiating what a sleeper team is versus a
Mhm.
wild card. Ben, go ahead. Give me what you think your sleeper team is for the men's side.
So again, we don't like over indexing on regional results.
Yep.
But I have two teams,
Yep.
and I'll start with one, and then I'll let you go. I think we're starting to possibly see the team that we were hoping to see at the beginning of the year out of the men from Wake Forest, who came into this year, I think, with a lot of expectations, and they have not hit those. I think that they, for me, are like a sleeper, like, again, very much out of nowhere. Like, it's a very small possibility. But I think there's a world where they are like running with the Buffaloes. They're running with the Syracuse Orange. And that was not something that I felt like you could say early in the season. They looked a lot better at the regional meet. I think if you can get guys like Charlie Sprout continue to run a little bit better. Joseph O'Brien, if he can get a little bit, continue some upward momentum. Daniel Winter ran very, very well at the regional meet. I think there's too much talent here in this Wake Forest team as they can be continuing this momentum into the national championship. I think they could vastly exceed expectations.
I mean, I listen. Do I think they could vastly exceed expectations? Yes, because I think we know what they have, right? Like we
Yes.
know what the best version of their top runners is. We haven't seen it this season though, and like
Nope.
I'm done waiting, and I don't look at the Southeast Regional meet as anything but a qualifier for them. Virginia didn't take it that seriously, and I don't blame them, and I just don't care. Like I don't care about the Southeast region. Like
I think that's fair.
I just I'm not like look could Wake Forest have an exceptionally great day and get 6? Sure. It's they haven't shown it to me, right? Like
I
they're
will.
so dependent on Sprout and O'Brien. That's the
Yes.
problem, and those guys have not been good this season.
I will say, obviously, Virginia very much treating it like a qualifying race, but everybody else, this was a very important race, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
maybe outside of Wake Forest, which didn't need it to be a very important race, but you look at everybody else: Eastern Kentucky, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, Louisville. Like, this was a big race, and a lot of
yeah.
these teams are good teams, and they crushed them. Like, so I think, with the exception of Eastern Kentucky, they're only 13 points ahead, but like I again cautious optimism. I'm not necessarily saying I'm picking them as like a top 6, top 7 team, but I am going to have them finishing, I think, a little bit higher than the overall consensus.
Fair enough. Fair enough. My sleeper is, and I don't know if, even if this is like, I think they're properly ranked. I mean, I don't know. We do our rankings, so like, of course, I think they're properly ranked. Michigan State. I love Michigan State. I think they're so much fun. I think they're complete. I think they're great. I could see them getting 7th. I could see it happening. I think what they've been doing this season, I think they're built for the 10K distance. I think they are experienced. I would like them to actually be experienced on the national stage, but I think
Yeah.
they're experienced. I think they have a high upside rookie in Thomas Westfall. I just really like Michigan State in general. I really like Butler in general. I think Butler, their top four has been running well, exceptionally well all season long. And if they just run their race, they could be a top 10 team. They don't have to do anything special. They don't have to do anything crazy. Just have your top four run as well as they have been all season. I don't love that their fifth runner is a little well off of that, but I could see Butler being a top 10 team. I think they're quite underrated and quite a strong squad. If you want me to go a little bit further back, though, Boise State. I think
Yep.
Boise State, just because they had to get pushed in. I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry, not Boise State. Not Boise State. Air Force. Air Force. I'm getting my Mountain West teams mixed up.
Yeah, I was like, wait, yes, on the women's side, but wait, no, it's talking about the men.
Yeah, no. Yeah, the Air Force. Air Force is a good team. Air Force is a good team.
Mhm.
They ran well at Bell Dellinger, even if it was kind of like just like a weird meet. I thought they held their own at Gans Creek. I think they're only getting better. I think Jaden Nat showed promise at Mountain Regional meet. I like them a lot. I like them a lot. So I could see a scenario where like Air Force is like, whoa, did you see Air Force get 13th, 12th place? Kind of like they did a couple of years ago. I like Air Force as well.
Yeah, no, I like them. They were one team that I wanted to mention as well. The other team that I'll mention is sticking in the Southeast region, Eastern Kentucky. They're more of a wild card than a sleeper, I think, because man, do they have talent, but goodness knows if they're going to finish the race or not.
Right.
But if they do finish, they'll probably finish it pretty quickly. So I think they'll be certainly one of the more fascinating teams to watch. But yeah, any other teams that you wanted to quickly highlight on the men's side before we go to the women?
No, let's go to the women's side.
Alrighty. On the women's side, so who is your top sleeper team on the women's side?
Do you have an answer to this already?
Not really. I don't love again the women's side has felt a lot more chalk throughout the year than the men's side, and I don't really feel good about picking one team to exceed expectations based off of where we have them ranked all that much.
I'm with you. I don't like teams that have recently struggled don't leave me encouraged. Teams that have recently had success are so heavily dependent on the recent results of one or two women, and so it's hard to gauge that. I will go actually South Carolina. South Carolina
Okay.
Gamecocks. Consistently solid all season long. Haven't necessarily been at major big meets, and I think that's what ultimately scares me about them going
Yeah.
to this. But they look good at Southeast, right? But they held their own at Crimson Classic. They held their own at Joe Piani, right? They more than held their own at SECs, where I think they were the third place team
Yep.
behind Florida and Alabama. So I'll take South Carolina. I think Salma El Badra is really good. I think they've got a very strong middle lineup. Just a very strong middle lineup contingent that's pretty stable and been stable. I think they're complete enough through five. I think it's pretty. I like them in this field structurally speaking.
Yeah, I like that. I think these SEC teams like the LSU's, the Missouris, Texas A&M, I think they've flown under the radar a little bit, and
Sure,
they've all been very very good. Gosh,
it's hard. There's not a lot of great options.
no, there is not. I think I liked what we've seen out of Missouri this year, so I'm gonna go. I'm a similar vein, maybe a poor man's version of South Carolina. I think South Carolina is a team that could sneak into the top 15. I think Missouri is a team that maybe gets into the top 20. And again, this isn't like a big change from expectations, but again, I don't think there are many teams that are going to vastly exceed expectations. Missouri has been rock solid the entire year, fifth at SECs. They were fourth at Midwest Regional. I like the overall structure that they have. They have a solid low stick in Monica Wanjiku. And then they have a 2 through 4 that can pack up fairly well. That fifth score, they have options. None of them are particularly inspiring necessarily, But I think, hey, if someone just has like one runner from their 5 through 7 just has a crazy good day, all of a sudden I think Missouri is exceeding expectations, and they have options, right?
Mhm.
For that fifth spot. So I could see Missouri exceeding expectations here.
Yeah, and I even going back to the SEC again. I like LSU. Like I think
Yep.
LSU, like the best versions of their low stakes, which is like Edna Chepkamoy, Yue Sawada, who's actually been sneaky good, Abigail Chimnegai. These are those three women were top 30 at SECs, and I think they can actually be better. Like these are women who
Mhm.
have like defeated Riley Blade, right? Their back end isn't great, but I think like Ella Chestnut has shown us enough in the past that like she can be a half decent fourth scorer. And so I will take LSU as like another one that I'm just like, you know what, like everything goes well for them. I could see them like really leaning into the firepower that they have. So I think LSU is another one there.
We
But
haven't
I'm
really
with you.
talked.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go.
Well, I was just gonna say, I was like, but I'm with you. The options here in terms of what a sleeper is pretty limited.
And we haven't really talked about the Mid-Atlantic region at all. It's like the West Virginia, the Georgetown, Penn State, Villanova. I feel like they have all a lot of these teams have exceeded our expectations throughout the regular season to the point where hey, they're no longer sleepers, right?
Right.
They're top 10, top 15 contenders, but they have all been very, very good throughout the year. Do you see any of these? I mean, maybe take out West Virginia. Any of these teams being able to crack the top 10?
I think they're definitely capable, 100%. I think Georgetown and I think Penn State could absolutely crack the top 10. I think Villanova, it's a bit of a stretch for them to crack. I think it just depends on what version of those of Penn State and Georgetown do we see, right? Do we see in the version of Penn State that got, you know, second at Big Tens, right? That had Charlotte Kostic and Adarand. Georgetown, like what version of them are we seeing, right? I would say probably Georgetown just because I trust their lineup more as a whole. Um, to get a top 10 spot more than Penn State. But yeah, I think those two teams could. I don't know if I see them getting higher than like ninth place,
Yeah.
but yeah, they could.
I had a really hard time predicting like those three teams, and I kind of just clumped them all together. I was just like, all
Yeah.
right, I know you guys are pretty close in proximity to each other. You've raced all year and you're pretty close. I have no idea how you really stack up to a lot of these teams around you, which I think makes them a fascinating teams to watch at the very
Yeah.
least. Any other team that you wanted to mention on the women's side?
No. No, not really. I like Boise State a lot. I like Boise State a lot, but I'm no, in general speaking, no.
All right, let's move on to the individual side and let's start on the men's here. Who how many guys do you consider in your favorite tier?
Three.
And those are Habtom Samuel,
Yep.
Brian Massow.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your third?
Who do you think it is? You're not being brave enough. Who do you think it is?
Is it Rocky Hansen?
It is not Rocky
Okay,
Hansen.
I was like, if you're being real brave, that's who I
I'm
would
just
have.
asking you to be brave. I didn't have to be brave, right?
Yeah.
It's Solomon Kipchoge is my
Okay.
third. I
Okay.
I could see the scenarios for Rocky. Who are your favorites?
I think it's two. I think there's two, and then it's everybody else in my mind. I
Okay.
think it's Samuel, it's Masao. I would be frankly pretty surprised if anybody else won. Now Kipchoge's been awesome. He was awesome last year, and then obviously we just didn't get to see him run at the national meet, and that's something that I think kind of looms in the back of your mind a little bit when you're thinking, hey, can you go up against guys who have won national championships in years past? So I think it's those two, and I mean Samuel's got to be like, I'm just tired of seeing this Masao guy at national championships. I mean, cross country's been a little bit of a different picture than track, but it's been a fun little rivalry to watch over the last year or so.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I was talking to one of our writers, and they were like, "Hey, I think Rocky Hansen can win the national title." And then I did like the gif of like what is it, Game of Thrones, and it's like shame, Shame. That was like, and don't get me wrong, I love Rocky Hansen. He might be my favorite American NCAA runner right now. Um, and like, could there be a wild scenario where like he gets like he makes it tighter than expected? Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's Samuel. I think it's Masao. I think Kipchoge is just not. I think the move up to 10K, that's the thing. The move up to
Mhm.
10K favors probably Kipchoge more than it does Masao, just in terms of not that Masao is necessarily
Yeah.
like worse still that point, but I think Kipchoge gains more from moving up to 10K than Masao does, right? Um, so that's why I have Kipchoge in there. But Hansen's kind of like sitting on my fringe as well.
Okay. Okay. Um, on the women's side, and this is where it gets really interesting. Is it one woman and then everyone else, or is there a group that could win this national champion or should be favored to win this national championship?
There's two, maybe three.
Okay. So you got Doris Lemngole,
I do.
obviously. I think the two, maybe three, is Hedengren and Koski, right? Pamela Koski.
Correct. In that order. Yeah.
I so it's almost like a 1A 1B, right? Like I think you have Lemon in like the 1A, and then like Hedegren and Koski in 1B, or do
I
you have
think
like
I
1A
think
Hedegren's all the way up there?
I think Hedengren and Lemngole are equal
Interesting.
favorites. I think they're co-favorites.
Equal. You're
I
gonna
think
say
they're
equal?
I think I'm taking Lemongol. Let me just put it this way. I'm
Yes.
taking Lemongol. I think you're taking Lemongol,
Yes.
and I think we should take Lemongol because she hasn't given us any reason not to. I think Hedengren has been Hedengren. I don't know. We got corrected on that recently. I don't know. I try my best. Sorry. Um, I think what she's done is like unreal. She
Absolutely.
hasn't. No one's been even within sneezing distance of her. I'm giving the nod to Lemengol, but I'm also showing my respect to Hedengren in terms of saying that she is almost as much of a threat, if not the same amount of a threat for the national title as Lemengol is.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as that, just to say like she's she's close, but there's still a gap in my mind, right? And that might be unfair because there's really nothing that you can critique about what Hedegren has done this year. She just hasn't raced against Lemngole, and so we don't, or like Koski. So it's hard for us to know how she stacks up against the best in the NCAA because she hasn't been given the opportunity to do it. Until Lemngole loses, I think you just assume that she's a not a significant favorite because of what Hedegren has done, but a like a clear favorite in my mind.
Uh it. I'll just put it like this: Lemengol should be favored, but no one should be surprised in the slightest
Yes.
if
Yeah.
Hedengren is it wins the national title.
Yep.
So I'm still taking Lemengol. And
Agreed.
and I feel pretty good about that. Like, I think it's going to be very easy to be like, because here's what the thing people love, and I've done this for 10 years now.
Yeah.
People get really excited about freshmen because
Mm-hmm.
they get the excited about the idea of what is or what could be, right? And they get the idea of like, oh, maybe we're changing things up, we're spicing
Yeah.
things up, right? Like they want to see something different. And I think it's also fair to say, like, hey, we're a predominantly an American podcast, right? People want to see an
Yep.
American run well, which I get and I understand. Um, I think those are all factors contributing to why people may or begin to choose Hedengren over Lemengol. But for now, I'm taking Lemengol. I think Lemengol deserves the right to be called a national title favorite, and but I would not be surprised if Hedengren is the one who wins. I wouldn't be surprised actually at all.
Yep. No, I think that's a fair way of parsing that. On the men's side, as far as a wild card, someone that, hey, you just don't know what to expect, a wide range of possibilities. Who is that for you on the men's side?
Super easy one. This is Kipruto, excuse me, of Louisville.
Yeah.
He won the Loyola Lakefront Invite, beating Colton Sands and Tomer Terragano, then failed to crack the top 50 at Nuttycombe, then got third, second at ACCs. I want to say, I forget. I don't even know. So like, long story short, I don't know what to get from him. He's clearly ridiculously talented, but
Mm-hmm.
does like a larger field like we saw at the Nuttycombe Invite, does that hurt him, right? And so he was third behind Rocky Hansen and Gary Martin at ACCs. Does that hurt him? And so we'll see. I just don't know with him at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's incredible that Louisville is at the national in the national championships, considering the up and down nature of their best runner, right? And so I think that is a good one, and I think from a team perspective, it'll be fascinating to see how they end up. On my side, I am gonna go with someone who I think might hold the keys to the national championship trophy in his hands, depending on how he performs. And I'm going to go with Adisu Guadia. We already mentioned him
Oh,
from Oklahoma State. Second at Big 12 championships. Looked fantastic, but was 25th at the Weiss Crockett Invitational this year, and was seventh at Cowboy Jamboree. Hasn't been the most consistent guy throughout his career, and
yep,
hasn't been the most consistent guy this year.
yep.
He was 50th at NCAA's in 2023 in cross country, and was 110th in 2024. If that doesn't sum up his career, I don't know what else does. He very well could be a top end All American, top 20 place finisher. He could also finish outside the All American position, and possibly be the reason why Iowa State or New Mexico ends up winning this national championship. He's going to be, I think, one of the biggest wild cards that I'm going to be paying very, very close attention to early on when we're getting those live splits.
Let's move on to the women's side. Who would you say as your wild card?
Oh, let's see here. I did not come fully prepared on this one. I'm gonna go Taylor Rohotinsky. A similar kind of vein of like picking someone that I think has a lot of upside, but also has been a little inconsistent and holds a very, very important role in the team title race. She absolutely could be an All-American. We've also seen her falter throughout this season a little bit. And I think if she falls out of that All American position, now does she have the wide range of maybe some other wild cards? Like, I don't think she's finishing 150th. Like, I don't think there's like a hundred place gap here. But if we're talking about someone who has a lot of potential, who has very strong experience, but hasn't always run her best at times this year, I think she certainly fits that bill, and is, again, someone that I'm going to be paying very, very close attention to early in the race, because if she's up front, the title race gets a lot different.
Good one. Good choice. I like that choice. I will take Rachel Forsyth, the
Mm,
sophomore out of Michigan State. She like broke out in the postseason of last year, was fantastic as a freshman. This year she's been good, but not great. And I don't really know what I'm getting from her. And I don't know if she's going to be an All-American. I maybe she will, maybe she won't. Like, she hasn't really had too many poor performances, but she hasn't had too many great performances. Uh, so like, what version of her do we get? Is it the same woman who peaked at the national meet last year, right? And who peaked in the postseason, or is this going to be someone who's going to be struggle to crack the top 40, top 50? And so I don't really have a good gauge on her right now. I feel like I want to rely on her, I want to pick her, but I'm kind of struggling to get behind that. So she will be Rachel Forsyth will be my wild card.
yep, absolutely. I mean, again, has flashed the talent that we knew she had coming into
Yeah.
the NCAA in a very, very promising way. How does she do it at the biggest stage when she's really seemed to make a significant leap this year? One other wild card that I should have mentioned, again, we mentioned her before, so no reason to go into it too much, but Bila Jepkuri, right? Like, again, very, very interesting wild card on the women's side. Um, Sleeper for the men. Who do you have here? And again, this could be a sleeper to, hey, they make All-American unexpectedly. They finish top 20 unexpectedly. Like, it could be whoever you think will exceed expectations.
I am leaning towards one name in particular. I just want to double check a few things here before I. Yeah, okay. Nixon Chebby of Auburn. This guy was someone who I monitored last year and was in our just missed portion this year and going into the preseason. He was seventh at Southern Showcase. Okay. Fourth at Alabama Crimson Classic. Okay. And then he was second at SECs. And then he was third at South Region. I think he's beginning to peak exceptionally well. I think his ceiling is ridiculously high. I think he has proven that he can run with top names before. I think he has prior national meet experience where he was 66 at the national stage as just a freshman. Um, I like Nixon Chebby of Auburn. I think he's going to do really, really well. I think he will almost certainly be a top 40 All American. And I actually really like his chances to be a top 20 All American. So give me Chebby of Auburn.
Wow. All right. I like it. Top 20 All American. All right. Book it. On my side, I'm going to go with Mishak Kuyo of
Good
Boise
name.
State.
Yep.
Fourth at the regional meet this year. Was third at Mountain West, only behind I think it was Habtom Samuel and Vincent Cheer. He's just been awesome this year. Really hasn't had a bad race, but has flown under the radar a little bit because he didn't come in with like flashy track times. He ran 13:41 and 29:12 like this past spring, but he's just been solid and consistent and has risen to the level of competition that he's raced against. And I think he's going to do it again. Another guy that I think is certainly an All-American, but I think there's potential for, again, top 20, top 25 type of finish from Kuyo this weekend.
Yeah, good pick. I like Kuyo. I think he's pretty underrated. And in fact, he actually got a little bit of a boost in this week's ranking updates after his performance. So yeah, I think Kuyo's great. I kind of saw him when he transferred in this last winter, and I was like, ooh, I
Mhm.
think that could be a sneaky good name, along with all the other guys that they have. So, um, in terms of a sleeper for the women's side, who do you like here?
Boo, 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 boo.
I've got a name.
Yeah, go ahead.
I am insanely high on Elizabeth Katevi of Texas A&M Corpus Christi. I think she is phenomenal. Ben, she won a Rust Buster, the cross country at the cross country at Seashore meet in August. She then won another Rust Buster a week later. She then won the black race of Gans Creek Classic. She won the Arturo Barrios Invitational, taking down Angelina Perez and taking down Jaden Keeler at that meet. She won the Southland Conference Cross Country Championships, and then she won the South Central Regional Championships. She is undefeated, albeit against some pretty thin competition. But
Limited.
she
Yep.
beat Arturo. She won Arturo Barrios against two really solid All-American favorites, and like did so by almost 10 seconds in some cases here. I think she has not been fully tested. I don't think she has been. We have seen the full extent of what she can offer. She comfortably defeated Cindy Thorvaldsen, now Sydney Vaught, at the South Central Regional meet. I think she's going to be a top 10 name at the national meet. Book
Nice.
it. Book it.
I,
Elizabeth
I
Katevi.
like it. I like it. And it's very funny because the woman that I was looking up while you were talking about her also has run in a lot of the same meets behind Katevi. And she has not performed quite to the level. I don't. So this is not someone I think is top 10 name. I think this is someone that could sneak into the All American conversation. And that is Evan Humphrey
Oh,
Tulsa.
interesting.
Has put together a pretty good season this year. Second at Gaines Creek to Katevi, was seventh at Arturo Barrios, won the American Conference
Mhm.
Cross Country Championships, was eighth at the Midwest Championships. She's put together a very strong season. And you look at the women that she's lost to, it is a very good list of women. It is
Yeah.
not like they're all women that have all American aspirations. And she hasn't taken down like huge scalps, but she's been right there with some of the best women in the country. I'm going to have her as my sleeper to slip into an All-American position.
Great pick. Great pick. She's been a name I've been monitoring as well. She's very good. I agree. Yeah. I like my pick more, but I like your pick. So
All
then
right. That's it. Anything else?
no, that was great. Great preview, great recap of the regional meets. If you want to go see all of our picks, every single one of our writers, D1, D2, D3, NAIA, we are making all of our picks in order for all of the top 40 All Americans individually. We are predicting where every team will place. I mean, you're basically getting thousands of different effectively entries or predictions made between all of our writers. So that will be out ideally Wednesday. That's the goal. Hopefully all of them on Thursday. So go check that out on the site. Get a subscription there. We're also going to have updated rankings for D1 after the regional meets. We are going to try to get some group chat analysis in there as well for all the main divisions as well. Interview with Colton Sands coming on YouTube and Beyond the Stride podcast, Spotify this week. We got a whole lot coming up. And of course, we got people going out to the national meet. We got Andrew LeMay. We got Lauren Colley, our social media girl. And we've got, I think, Rachel Hickey, assuming we can get her a credential in time. She'll also be doing some video interviews as well. Going to be a blast. Go follow. Check us out. 5-star rating and review. That would be great. So, but Ben, that's all I got.
Good stuff. I'm interested to hear that Colton Sands interview because
Yeah.
what a career he's had. He's had such an upward trajectory over the last couple of years. Fascinated to learn more about that. But yeah, like Garrett said, a lot coming at you. We will have you well covered for the national championships in terms of podcasts, writing, whatever, interviews, everything that you would want, you will get at thestridereport.com. So make sure you are following along and you will get that subscription. But until next week, Garrett, I'll talk to you.
I'll talk to you.